Men, when did you realize you already reached your peak? I went from making thousands of dollars a month on Instagram to moving back in with my mom. What's worse is, I thought I had talent. I thought I had truly earned that money and I could make it all back at any second. So even when my views died and brands stopped reaching out, I pissed it all away. I spent it on worthless girls that don't even know my last name, stupid cars that my friends ended up crashing and didn't even give any of it to my parents. Looking back, I'm ashamed. I thought I was him. Within a year, all my money was spent. So now I was in my late 20s with nothing but a decent credit card score. Being lucky enough that my mom was still alive, I moved back in. God knows why that angel let me. My brain was messed up from all the substances I had abused and I had nothing to show for myself. It was the lowest point of my life. The worst part is that I still thought that one day I'd magically go back to making tens of thousands a month. But I was too stubborn to get a job and too stupid to try to make any more money. My days consisted of going to the gym and posting my old content on Twitter, praying to make a comeback. Long story short, I never did. Even after selling my assets and making refunds, I ran out of money. I had exactly $0 to my name, and I felt so lost. I almost didn't know how to be a man anymore. But my last straw was when my mom asked me for gas money and I told her I didn't have anything to give her. That night I looked at myself in the mirror and almost broke my fist from how hard I hit the glass. I had never experienced more self-hatred. I decided enough was enough. I put my ego aside and finally looked at some job postings. I just hoped I'd at least get something more than minimum wage. But at this point I would have taken anything. I figured the only skill I had left was my strength from being consistent at the gym. I tried to apply as a security guard, personal trainer, anything. I never heard back. Honestly, this was the closest I had come to unaliving myself. And if it wasn't for my mama, I probably would have. I tried to imagine a brighter future and spent the next few days glued to my Gmail refreshing and praying for a miracle. Nothing came. I couldn't afford to maintain any pride, so I had to text family members if they knew of any job openings. I couldn't believe I let it get this far. Only an uncle on my dad's side said he'd put in a word for me as a full-time night shift K9 officer, which meant I'd be one of those airport security guys with the big scary dogs. Apparently someone had quit and they've been desperate to find a replacement. To my surprise, the video call interview went well and, before I knew it, I had completed the few weeks of training, and I was on my first day of the job. It was all pretty standard procedure, and by the end of it I finally got to meet the dog I was going to handle. They told me I had to take care of him 24/7, that this dog had to become my new best friend. I was pissed at them for telling me so late, but beggars can't be choosers. I took Sir Waggington home with me and we began our bonding, but it became pretty clear that this dog was low on playtime. He couldn't get enough. I'd throw the ball 1,000 times and he'd still come back for more. It wasn't long before we did everything together. Where I went, Sir Waggington came with me. I even started saving him a special spot in my bed beside me. With money coming in again and a new best friend, things finally started looking up. Sir Waggington really cheered me up and I made sure to give at least 20% of every paycheck to my mama, just like I should have done all along. They were some of the most fulfilling moments I've had in my life. And just like that, it all fell apart. It started with Sir Waggington itching just a little more, then came the swelling and limping. He only got worse by the day. My healthy boy had dry paws, a dry nose and spent so much of his time scratching. Even on the job, I realized how much I loved my good boy because I was so worried. I didn't want people at work to know about it, in case they thought it was my fault. So I was left to research. I took 2 days off, scouring the internet for something that could help my good boy. I was too scared to use any medicine, so I tried every natural remedy I could find, which included dietary supplements and even oatmeal baths. But nothing worked and I knew there had to be something better for him out there. And I was right. I came across a floof spray that seemed to have good reviews. It was supposed to kill 99.9% of bacteria and yeast, which was good because the airport floor is filthy. And the best part was that it was lick safe. So my boy wouldn't eat it all like he did with the oatmeal baths. I figured delivery would take a week, so I had to tell my manager what happened. That I couldn't return until Sir Waggington was better. I sent them photo proof of his mystery disease and promised that I'd have him in perfect condition again soon. He sighed over the phone and said this always happens with this dog because he used to be a stray. But he said I have 2 weeks, otherwise they're gonna have to put the dog up for adoption because he was a liability. I hung up and my heart broke. I had no idea the stakes were so high. Sure, I could keep him regardless, but I'd also have to get a new dog and that's the last thing I wanted. I knew there was hope for Sir Waggington. Once the floof spray arrived, I made sure to use it a few times throughout the day consistently. Even though it was a pretty straightforward process, I followed the instructions word by word. I wanted nothing more than for my good boy to be running around with me again. Weirdly, it felt good to care so much about someone other than myself for once. I knew my boy trusted me because he let me open up his paw pads to spray inside between his toes without even flinching. It was a moment of bonding that no other exercise could replicate. Even as I rubbed in the floof spray, I could tell he knew I was doing what was best. Sir Waggington taught me the value of having a trust bond and loyalty more than any human has been able to. Anytime I felt like crap, all I had to do was look into his eyes, which were always so full of love and adoration. He made me a better man. It was in these circumstances that I actually understood how someone can be worried sick for someone else. I knew God was real when he was scratching less and the inflammation started to go down. I was delighted to watch my boy stop looking so sad all the time. He even started wanting ball time again. I never knew selflessness could be so rewarding. By the end of the week, me and Sir Waggington definitely saw an improvement. He was wagging his beautiful tail again. His nose and paws were moist again. I looked into my boy's eyes and realized he had come so far from living on the streets, fighting for scraps. He was the strongest man I knew. We decided to go back to work and after 10 days Sir Waggington was in perfect condition again. My boss was surprised and told me that in the past, other security K9 handlers have had to take months off, since they couldn't heal their dogs quick enough. I ended up recommending the floof spray to him for future doggy ordeals and I made Employee of the Month. From then on, I protected Sir Waggington's health even more than my own. Because of him, I could finally call myself a man.